Hi there. I'm drinking double sunshine. So Lawson's finally sent this officially outside of Vermont. Um, in the beginning of the pandemic, during lockdown, they shipped some of this to the Boston area without really telling anyone, and I managed to get some of it then. But this has been mostly brewery only since they opened their big brewery in Waitsfield, Vermont. And this is what Sip of Sunshine is based on. A long time ago, you'd be super lucky if you found bombers of this in a store, but Lawson's for a while now has had their big brewery and canning. So this is 8% alcohol. I think it's, very similar to Sip of Sunshine. Maybe this is a little bit darker, but it's a Citra Focus double IPA. Surprise, surprise. And Sip of Sunshine is brewed in Connecticut at Two Roads Brewery. It's always been made there. It was the first place to sort of can and somewhat mass produce Lawson's beer. But now they have this big brewery in Vermont, and they ship stuff from that brewery, but they haven't done this. And they also do a Triple Sunshine that's really good. It's in 12-ounce cans, surprisingly good. That one might be more fruity and juicy. This is a little bit more floral. But there you go. It is not super hazy. There are lots and lots of little tiny particulates in there. Don't know if you can see that. And I feel like it doesn't always have those, but this can got a little shaken up. It's a batch from January 15th, so that is about not 4 weeks old, almost 3 weeks old maybe. And the head looks pretty good. It looks kind of like, your standard IPA 10, I guess over 10, 15 years ago or so. But it smells very good. Yeah, they use a clean ale yeast. So Lawson's is really not anything like New England IPA brewer. They have some hazier IPAs they make, but they make these ones that are with a cleaner ale yeast. They're not using these English ale yeasts that create all these fruity esters that really bring out fruity, juicy hops. They're using a yeast strain that's more like Sierra Nevada, which does have its own fruity elements to it. Yeah, it smells a lot like Sierra Nevada. I don't know if it's the exact same one, or I don't know if they have their own proprietary strain. I mean, there is some juiciness in there too. It's tropical and it's sort of pineapple and peachy, but not in a juicy way exactly. It's more candy. And then there's a lot of nice floral notes to it. It's not very dank at all. I mean, maybe a little bit. It smells very nice, very clean. It has a pretty big body. Probably a bigger body than Sip of Sunshine. Maybe I'll just break down and buy some Sip of Sunshine and do a side by side. And it's pretty sweet and spicy. Like this, this brings me back to the old days of drinking IPAs before, like when Citra was coming out, but the hazy thing was not totally taking over. It reminds me, this is kind of like a half acre. Like a lot of half acre IPAs are sort of more in this style. Half acre from Chicago. But maybe this isn't as good as it was way back. I mean, it's definitely different than it was when it was Bombers. But even when I first had this at their big brewery in Waitsfield, it seemed like maybe it was a little bit better. Had sticking around pretty well. It's not bursting forth with aromatics. There's definitely plenty of flavor. They say it's packed with juicy, lush fruit character and dank herbal aromas. I don't know. Actually, there's a pretty good straight up orange smell in the aroma. It smells like real orange. Yeah, it's nice. It's just not explosive, but it's got a lot of really good stuff going on. And despite not being hazy, it's got a pretty big soft body. Stops short of being silky. I feel like it used to be more silky maybe. Extremely drinkable. The 8%, like, no. I think that's one reason why people like Ciba Sunshine, because it's so drinkable. And this is similar to that. There's a little bitterness. I wonder if it has more bitterness than Ciba Sunshine. Yeah, I'll just have to do a side-by-side tasting. I did this side-by-side with Heady Topper, and they're quite different. Yeah, this one is definitely milder than Heady Topper, and milder in the bitterness. Maybe a little bit more bitterness than your average hazy IPA. But I think that's probably one big thing why this was such a big deal when it first came out. It was the first Citra-focused, very low bitterness double IPA in Vermont. Because Heady Topper doesn't use Citra and it's quite bitter. Heady Topper is almost not really like... this is almost more like a hazy IPA than Heady Topper, even though Heady Topper is usually hazier than this. Yeah, that's a very nice aroma. And still, I'm not noticing any booze. Yeah, it's sort of like a bit of a bitter orange thing. It doesn't quite get to grapefruit. They do make a ruby red grapefruit version of this, which I wish they just wouldn't do because it's great just by itself. Yeah, there's some bitterness coming in. It's maybe eventually this will taste a little bit more grapefruity, but right now it's like some sort of bitter orange with hints of peach and pineapple. And a nice bright floral note. Like the orange is very bright and zesty, not too pithy, and there's a bright floral note to it. It's not really that herbal. There's a little bit of a very slight dank thing, but I'm saying dank and herbal, like when you smell it right out of the can, maybe, but not nearly as much as Heady Topper and a lot of other beers. But that's coming in a bit the more I drink it. But it's a very, very refined, drinkable beer. I like it a lot. It's a 4.5. There aren't many brewers making something quite like this. I guess there are barely hazy Citra IPAs out there, but most people are going for the hazy thing, or they call something a New England IPA and they call it hazy, but then it ends up looking like this, and it has like lots of strong yeast flavors or yeast off flavors, and this one is nice and clean, no off flavors. It's really well made beer. See you, get out. Bye.